Once upon a time, in construction industry, time and cost outrun is the norm. It's business as usual, and times are good. After the pandemic, and of course, the one that we know of right now with the global inflation situation, time and cost outrun is becoming a challenge. And how do we do it? Now, my name is Taufik, and I'll be your host today, where we'll be focusing on productivity in construction. Now, of course, before we go ahead, I'd just like to share with you that for today's session is a recorded session, and you will be receiving the links for today's webinar, where you can share with your peers, your colleagues, on what we discussed on today. Now, as we design today's session specifically for you, we want to keep this session very interactive. You can use the poll questions that we'll be having it throughout the session today. And then as what you can see now, there is a poll session that we want to test whether you are watching this webinar with your team. And you can click it on the answers, and then we want to see whether, the poll is working. Oh, I can see now that the poll is working right now. Thank you so much. Now, again, as we would do a lot of sharing, a lot of discussion throughout this webinar, you might have questions that require a lot more clarity, or you might just out of curiosity. Now, please feel free to ask questions on the box right on the bottom right-hand corner where everybody can see it. And then you can then have an opportunity to upvote the question that you have. Now, let's go dive straight in, right? Now, despite the challenges that we have, despite the additional value add and constant conversation on productivity in construction, progress has been very limited. Now, hence, for today's webinar, we have designed it in such a manner that we will be covering various topics, right? One of the areas that we'll be discussing on is productivity in construction, where my colleague, Thierry, Service Manager for Singapore, will be giving you an overview on how Hilti has evolved and adapt into productivity in construction. And of course, we have invited our consultant, Alvin, who will be sharing with you an actual case that he's been working on how he then partnered up with an organization into looking into optimizing toolpath, specifically on a day-to-day operations. And of course, we have invited Andrew, our sales manager, who he and his team has been working closely with an organization to understand from a product perspective, does it have a difference if you look at it into the whole application chain? Now, bringing it live to you as well, we have invited our customer, Mr. Polan Ang from Ginten Civil Engineering, who then will be sharing with you on how it has impacted his organization when we discuss into productivity in consultation that he has experienced. And of course, we encourage you to ask questions throughout the session, throughout the speaker sharing. And we have allocated some time at the end. If there's any questions that we missed, we can answer it at the end of the session. If we don't have sufficient time, of course, we will answer it during the sharing of the deck with you. Now, without further ado, let me first invite my colleague, Thierry, who will be talking to you about how Hilti has evolved throughout this journey on construction, and of course, giving you specifically on productivity in construction. Thierry, please welcome. Thank you for joining us, Thierry.
Thank you very much, Taufik, and welcome and good afternoon from my end as well. My name is Thierry Thiers. I have been with Hilti for close to 7 years in various sales and marketing roles, and I'm currently the services manager for Hilti in Singapore. The topics that I want to cover today, I want to keep it brief, right? Taufik mentioned it. We have some very exciting real-life stories, as well as a real case or as a customer come in to share it with us. So let's kind of keep the theories to a minimum. Nevertheless, let me start briefly with us, right? Who, as Hilti, um, who we are, as you know, and as many of you know us, we are a partner of the professional construction industry. We were founded in 1941 in Liechtenstein, so we have a bit more than 80 years of experience already. And yes, we have worldwide over 30,000 employees. Over 30,000 employees, and we are active in more than 100 countries. And this is actually important for one specific reason. Because if we look a bit more into detail, what is it that we do? What is our strength? And how do we do it? Then this becomes crucial. We always say our strength is innovation, right? This is clear. We spend a very significant sum of our sales every year on research and development. And we spend that not only on tools, not only on hardware, but just as much on services, on software, and our general consultative sales approach. Yes, we do issue around 165 patents every year, and we launch 60 new products every year. Quite an amazing amount. And with this, we try to differentiate ourselves because all of these solutions, the hardware, the software, it has a main ambition, and that's productivity. In the end, our goal is to make our customers save time and save money. Our ambition is to become productivity partners with our customers. And for this, we need to have the right solutions in place. Now you may ask, okay, how do you know what's the right solution? And that's where the numbers from before come into play, right? Because with our employees, we actually have more than 230,000 customer contacts per day. Now, okay, this is an amazing number, and I can tell you what's even more amazing is the feedback that we get from that. We have direct customer feedback every day, which helps us significantly in understanding our customers' pain points. And with all of this feedback, we have developed various solutions on creating it for the construction industry, coming from the construction industry. And if you look at it a bit over time, this picture shows a bit how this has happened, right? I said it before, 1941. At the core, products, our tools, our hardware that we are incredibly proud of. However, we started the services journey actually 20 years ago with the launch of our fleet management, which you may heard of as well, which is our tool park optimization approach, right? Since then, we have further evolved, going into the areas of software, consulting, digitalization, implementing more and more solutions to be the productivity partner that we want to be to our customers. Now, we have talked a bit about us as Hilti, what we do, how we have developed. Now we would actually like to know from you. We know the situation specifically over the last 1 to 2 years has not been very easy. But if you think about productivity in construction, you think about your business, you think about your daily operations, of the ones that you see here, what would you say are the main challenges that you face on a daily, weekly, monthly basis?
We see some
We
polls coming
see the
in.
votes coming in. Yes, I think we see it come in. Quite the split there that we see. We see manpower being a bit of an issue, inefficient processes, yes, skilled labor being selected. There's also the option of others, right? If you have others, feel free to mention that too. You can mention it directly in the chat box. As Taufik said in the beginning, feel free to use that chat box, whatever comment, feedback, question you have, feel free to share. But the result, what we can kind of see there, is mostly on manpower. We see some comments coming now. Speed. Yeah,
and safety.
Speed being a problem. Safety, very important, something that is very close to our hearts as well when we develop new innovations and new tools. So cool, very, very good overview, right? So if we were to, put it in order, manpower seems to be the main issue, followed by skilled labor, and effectively just inefficient processes. And this is a very nice interview, and thank you for your feedback. We have one more comment on quality. Yeah, the output, right? the output and the manpower do seem to be the main issues. And these are great points. And the thing is, these main challenges, this is not something that is a individual customer's issue usually. We see a general trend. And now I want to take a step back and look at it a bit outside or away from our Hilti perspective and our Hilti glasses, right? And we look at the productivity growth. And what you can see here is that there is a clear gap, right? If we look at how productivity developed in construction, there is a clear gap of how it developed since 1995, right? Is the beginning of this graph. And if we compare it to other areas, such as the economy in general, or then manufacturing, we see that there is a gap of almost 1.7, right? Quite the factor there. And we have to ask ourselves, okay, why is that the case? And what can we potentially do about this? And we have looked a bit into as well a perspective from external. And this information is actually coming out of a study that was done by McKinsey on reinventing construction, they called it, right? The route to higher productivity. And they have managed to define 7 key areas where they feel they have the biggest potential to improve productivity in construction. That starts with regulations, right? Which is something that is a bit of a different side of the stakeholder that would manage that, or rewiring contracts. While on the other side, it already starts with design, right? Rethinking the design, something that we have looked into, obviously, of course, as well. And then if we look specifically at the bottom 3, it talks about on-site execution, infusing technology and innovation, and reskilling workers. And if we think about the results that we just have from the poll, this is a very similar picture, right? And that's why these 3 topics are the ones that we want to focus today. We want to see within these 3, what is the influence of productivity, or how can we improve productivity? And in the end, how do you improve productivity? Well, you have to work on either end, right? Either on the input or the output, because productivity effectively is how much output do you get for the work that you put in. And if we look at it from the input side, this is a bit of a generalistic view, right? Now, of course, these numbers are somewhat generalized, but I'm quite sure that if you think of your business, you will think of a similar ratio, right? When we look at the input that has to be made, the key cost drivers for construction projects, we see this picture. And what is obvious, it's the people, right? Almost half of the cost usually that we have are for the employees, for the people, followed by the next big part of materials, right? Which usually covers around 30%. If we then look at the top part, right? You would say the tiny bit, and you have these icons and they look fairly close to Hilti tools, right? Now you would say, okay, but if the impact is just that much, how can we really leverage the Hilti solutions for productivity? Well, the thing is, there is a very, very obvious correlation. And the thing is that the main point is that these small assets and the processes around these assets, the quality of these assets, is the key decisive factor on how efficient and how productive your main cost driver is. So it's not always easy to work directly on the cost that we want to influence, but we have to make sure that the surroundings influence it in the right way. And that's exactly what we want to do. This is where our services really tackle, where we want to make sure that we can get this cost part lower, save time, save money, and make everyone more productive. Now, I'm going to go into the next slide. And there, the question that I've asked myself is, okay, that we asked ourselves within Hilti, we say we want to do it more productive. How do we do it, right? We just have a couple of services, a couple of tools that are really great that we want to sell. Well, productivity is a bit more complex than that. And what we have realized that there is no one size fits all, right? There is no product that I can sell you today. There is no software that I can just sell you today and say, congratulations, from tomorrow on, you will be more productive. Because in the end, these solutions are very individual. So we have to make sure that when we make an offering to you that is either hardware or software or services based, that it fits your exact needs. And this is why we have come up with a 5-step process which we call our so-called productivity consultation. Within this productivity consultation, we go through 5 different steps. The first one being, we just look at your customer's asset inventory, right? We look at what are the assets that the customer has. We go beyond just Hilti tools, obviously. We look at all of the tools. We even go beyond. We look at vehicles, bigger assets. We map it out. We just really want to understand what is the customer working with. And then we take that and we look at the total cost of ownership, right? Because as we all know, the direct cost, the purchasing cost, is really only one part. So we go beyond that. We try to uncover the hidden costs that can be caused by repairs, lost, stolen tools, downtime, the time for a repair process, for example. We try to quantify that and make it really graspable on what these total costs are. We then do a process mapping, right? In the end, having the right assets is only one side. We also have to make sure that they're being moved around in the right and most efficient way. So we do a process mapping of the different individual stakeholders. And then we look into the hardware, right? We look into the tools. We look into the performance of those tools. We look into the applications. And we try to make an assessment on whether the right tool is used for the right application. And in the end, take these 4 points and we create a productivity report out of it. That productivity report then shows a customer, okay, what is my situation? What is the status quo? What are my processes? What's my inventory? What's my total cost of ownership that I have? And then we pair that with an individualized, tailored proposal on how that could work for our potential customer and try to, by this, support our customers on productivity. This is our 5-step approach. But I will no longer go into theory, right? I said it in the very beginning of my part. We have some exciting real-life cases. So let's not talk about these 5 boxes in theory, but let's share with you some real-life examples of how this looks, right?
Yes.
Can we do that?
Yes. But I just want to make a comment, Thierry. I find it very interesting, right? Based on the poll, the response from the poll, a lot of it involved employee labor, manpower. A lot of it involved on-site execution, and it's a telling tale where the McKinsey report. I think the study was done back in 2017. And then it's similar now for what we are facing. So that is a constant struggle. And then we can see on the chat as well, safety is an issue, speed of, doing something is an issue on site. So there's a lot of factor. And then I think you put it across nicely. We don't just go in and focus on one area. We took a step back and then we look at it as a whole, and then we analyze it individually and then produce a report where it's like a whole organization structure rather than just a specific area.
Yes, step by step to come up with the right solution.
We do have a question from the audience.
Yes.
I think the question is surrounding how many consultation do you do, and how long does typically, like the process takes?
Yes, that's a very good question. So we have a handful of specialists actually here in Singapore alone, our so-called solution consultants, which you mentioned in the beginning. And as of now, we are actually averaging more than 200 productivity consultations that we do round about in a year, right? This is currently what we go through. And from a timing perspective, we usually take about 2 weeks, 2 to maximum 3 weeks, that we need to speak with the different stakeholders from, as I said, from the asset inventory to the process mapping. We always try to speak with the relevant people. So we try to speak with the purchasing departments, with the warehouse managers, with the site managers, the site supervisors, the workers, to really get the information on different levels. And for this, we obviously have to visit various sites, right? We can't just go to one of our customer sites and feel like, yeah, we know it all. No, we have to go a bit more into detail. So on an average productivity consultation, we visit, I would say, 3 to 4 different sites and facilities of our customers. And for that, it takes us about 2 to 2.5 weeks to come up with the report.
Okay. So you're all dependent on a lot of factors, right? Availability, and then the ease of going into the project site as well, because we just don't want to be he say, she say. It has to be an actual data for the output. So the 2.5 weeks, about 3 weeks,
Yes,
Should
it
be a
has to
good
be
date.
actual data, it has to be real data, and it has to be quantified data, right? It just can be numbers that are picked from somewhere. We want it to be real because we want to show the productivity impact.
Thank you so much for your time, Terry, and thank you so much for the sharing.
Thank you very
I
much.
think everybody have a clear understanding now about why productivity is the key factor in the future as well. Not only in the future, but now, and then it sets the stage for the future growth as well.
Cool.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Terry. Now, there you have it. As Terry just shared, right? Productivity in construction, based on the reports that Terry just shared, it has a 1% growth year on year for the past 2 decades. It doesn't change that much. Now, interestingly, based on the studies as well, construction industry has contributed 7% of the working world population. And that's where we see a significant, be it you are in Singapore, be it you're in Malaysia, Vietnam, the challenge is similar. It's always about labor productivity. Now, we now know it from theory, we now know it from the report, but how do we actually do it? So up next, I will have my dear colleague, Alvin, who is a consultant here in Singapore as well. He will be sharing with you a case that he worked closely on, where he then looked into how do I optimize the tool park in terms of operations. So without further ado, Alvin, please join us. Thank you, Alvin, for taking so much for your time.
Thank you. All right, so good afternoon, everyone. My name is Alvin, and I'm a solution consultant with Hilti. My primary role would be to improve customers' productivity via optimizing your tool park, digitalizing your existing processes, and even trying to make your existing processes leaner or even simpler. So for today's first case study, let's look at the customer's profile. Now, this company is actually a multinational company with global presence in over 140 countries, 66,000 people worldwide, including nearly 500 in the Singapore subsidiary. We'll be looking at just the Singapore subsidiary today. And it's also a leading organization in the urban mobility industry with maintenance, installation, and modernization works in high-rise buildings, commercial and residential estates. It has also a long partnership with us, Hilti, more than over 25 years. And personally, I've been working with this company since January this year. And you know it, my main agenda would be to improve their productivity. Now, while this customer has already digitized their business processes, there was further potential for productivity improvement. So let me highlight what was done previously. During a study, we concluded that this customer was suitable for our asset management software, which is OnTrack. Let me just further highlight what were the applied use cases. In terms of workforce and certification management, now this customer has a unique use case for this point. They would like to tag their workers and subcontractors as assets and then assign them to specific locations and projects. And also, these workers and contractors need to comply with their internal training. So this was how they use our OnTrack to manage their certifications also. In terms of asset management, they required transparency on asset location. So this customer, they wanted to know where are their assets, who were they assigned to, and also how long were they being used on site. And that would also explain why they needed to use OnTrack for their usage tracking. Lastly, compliance with all incoming service and calibration intervals. They also tag all their equipment onto OnTrack, including multimeters, tachometers, and winches. And all these, we know they will need to be serviced or even calibrated periodically. So OnTrack provides them this platform to manage that totally too. Now, with all these benefits that they use OnTrack for, we brought their productivity to a next level. But of course, we didn't just stop there. We actually were entrusted to do a productivity consultation recently. So From that productivity consultation, we unraveled even more opportunities. Let me briefly highlight what they are. Number one, job site operations often interrupted due to frequent tool breakdowns, and this can be up to 4 to 5 times a month. Number two, high number of replacement tools stored, leading to high upfront capital investment. Number three, there's no standardized tool park established. We realized that the customer's tool park was fragmented, leading to unproductive interactions with multiple suppliers. And number four, there were lengthy tool repair processes required that involved too many stakeholders. Now, this customer shares the same problem as all of us. Due to the pandemic, we have limited access to skilled workers. The manpower availability has also shrunk. So by addressing and resolving such challenges, we aim to make their existing workforce more productive. Now, Thierry has highlighted briefly earlier that we use a structured process for our productivity consultation, namely asset inventory, cost of ownership, process mapping, tool utilization analysis, and finally a productivity report that allows you to have a sound and informed decision in how to improve your productivity of your business. For this first case study, I will be focusing more on number 1, 3, and 5. So for asset inventory, what we did was we actually did a complete inventory check for the customer. We went to their job sites, we went to the warehouse. What we looked at was the working condition of their assets, the performance, and also the tool life of their assets. Additionally, we also align with the main contact of our customer at the beginning of this productivity consultation, where he assigned key stakeholders in his companies that could provide us genuine, credible feedback that we would use thereafter quantitatively to justify the numbers that we would come up at the end of the productivity report. Moving on to process mapping, this is a very important tool for us. We actually use this to identify waste, eliminate waste. But before we go through all that, we need to understand the complete process of the customer. Right? It can be from the job site to the warehouse and to the back-end office. And it can be just be about a repair, a theft, or a loss, or even a purchase process. Sorry. Now, let's deep dive into what was identified at this customer when a tool breaks down. Now, the standard process takes 12 to 14 days. What you see up there now, when a worker has a faulty tool on site, he would need to inform his manager or coordinator. The coordinator would then inform the purchaser to get a quote, and then they would have to do an internal discussion or decision on whether to repair or to replace. Now, earlier on, we already highlighted that the customer's tool park was fragmented. So you can just imagine the purchaser would have to do multiple similar calls to various suppliers, and all would come back with different terms and conditions. The actual repair might take 10 to 12 days, but all these are happening with the background of the customer purchasing department has to receive the invoice and provide the delivery order to multiple suppliers. So with this in mind, can we optimize this process? Yes, we can. With our Hilti fleet management, we can streamline this down to 3 days. The customer will just need to call, and then our customer service will provide a loaner tool when we go down to collect the faulty tool from the customer. And after 3 days, within 3 days, we would then provide the repaired tool to them. Now, so food for thought, which process would you prefer then?
Of course, 3 days, right? Because that is a given. That's something that we all constantly talk about, labor productivity, right? I mean, if I'm the business owner, if the process takes 3 days, comparing to 12 to 14 days, why not?
So moving on. So at the end of this productivity consultation, of course, we will provide then a report to the customer. Now, this report would show the customer the potential savings and also where the cost drivers are, especially detailed components where the indirect and the direct costs are. And therefore, with all this transparency, the customer will be able to find out where can I reduce my costs, where can I optimize my business, and then how can I improve the productivity in my business. Now, moving on, how do we resolve our customers' challenges and materialize productivity gains? On the left of the screen, it will be challenges that were identified earlier on, those opportunities, and on the right will be how we resolve them. Number one, job site operations often interrupted due to frequent tool breakdowns. How we achieved by solving this was to make sure that the customer had a productive tool park. And how we achieved that was via free plannable service and maintenance provided before the tools break down. What this means would be, even if the tools are not being used, the customers can proactively send the tools to us for us to do a maintenance check to ensure that there will be no future breakdowns. We will also conduct free regular service checks to the tool park, and we will come to your job site to ensure that all your tools are maintained at the highest productivity level. Secondly, high number of replacement tools stored, leading to high upfront capital investment. What this means actually would be that the capital has been locked since the excessive tools are not being used. So via our productivity consultation, we optimize your toolbar by looking at the specific applications, the right tools for your applications, and the right quantity for the applications. In this way, we effectively reduce the number of tools and your costs. We also provide free loaner tools with every repair. And what's best about this is there is only a fixed monthly payment to eliminate all the upfront capital investment. Number three, there's no standardized tool park established, leading to unproductive interactions with multiple suppliers. So in our proposal to the customer, by offering our fleet management, we are just simplifying one supplier landscape, one tool park solution specifically catered to your needs. And that minimizes the number of involved stakeholders whenever there's a tool repair required, a loss, or a theft. Lastly, lengthy tool repair processes require involvement of many stakeholders. Instead of many stakeholders contacting externally and internally, now the customer can only just need to do a click on our OnTrack app or give us a call, and our customer service will arrange everything, and all our repairs are covered, including wear and tear. But what is best of that is, of course, our quick repair turnaround, which I believe will be the top of a class in our industry, with just a turnaround time of just 3 days. So in summary, resolving the challenges led to what kind of cost reductions and productivity gains? Firstly, 100% reduction in downtime due to the loaner tools provided whenever there are any repairs. $0 upfront capital investment to optimize cash flow for the tools in our fleet management. More than 25% savings from tool park management related direct and indirect costs. And 75% stakeholder reduction in tool maintenance and repair process from 4 to 1. So that is what we managed to unravel and achieve through our productivity consultation.
Yeah, I was just looking at this, and then I was like asking myself, I thought earlier on you said the downtime was 3 days, and then it looks like it's 0 days, and that's why it's 100% saving. And then I remember, under the fleet management program, you provide a loaner tool for the customer. So essentially, there's no job site downtime, right? So yeah, I mean, that's one of the benefits that I think everybody is looking for, because if I can still carry on my job, I mean, I don't have to play catch up. And that is always the concern. If I have to play catch up, and then my project potentially could be delayed. Thank you. Thank you, Alvin, for sharing so much. Thank you so much. Now, as what Alvin shared, right, during the consultation, one of the areas that we focus on is the process mapping. Now, lean management is well widely used in the manufacturing industry. So we took that idea and then we look into the process of, for example, into tool breakdown. Because many of the time, even you are in Philippines, even you are in India or any parts of the world, whenever we ask an employee or a worker on the job site, what happened next when your tool break down? Or I pick up the phone and call someone. But if you look into details and each and every step on how much time does it take, what is the ideal time and stuff like that, we look into all these to specifically to look into areas where is there any air gap, is there any ideal time, is there any duplication of effort, is there any waste throughout that process, and then we look into it and how we can improve just a simple process when the tool break down on site. Of course, we can look into many areas when it comes to process mapping as well during the consultation. Now, on one area, now Alvin has shared, on what are the other areas that we look at, specifically on process mapping. Now, many of the time when we look into a product, we look at it into like how much is the cost of the product A, how much is cost of product B, how much is cost of product C, and many of the time, sometimes we make judgment into purchase. Oh, let's look at the price, and that's the one that I go. Now, next, I will invite Andrew to share with you into how he then look into productivity improvement, not solely on product perspective, but looking into product and how it relates to the work on the job site. Andrew, welcome. Thank you so much for your time on your busy schedule.
No problem. Hi, Taufik, and hi, all participants in the webinar. Right, so I just do a very quick introduction of myself. I think you saw from the slides already. My name is Andrew. I'm a sales manager managing a team of 9 account managers in the building construction sector in Singapore. So for the participants who are from Singapore, you've probably seen me around across my various roles with the company. But yes, very happy to see you here today. Yes.
Thank you, Andrew.
Yes. So I gave an introduction to myself. Maybe I also want to put a bit of perspective into where we are now in terms of this productivity webinar. So just now, Alvin spoke about processes. If you see the 5 steps that we actually do during the consultation, Alvin spoke a lot about processes, how to optimize that. For me, like what Taufik mentioned, I'll be focusing a lot about tool utilization and also cost of ownership when it comes to your tool part. Echoing what Thierry said at the start of the webinar, your manpower is around half of the cost of your construction project.
Yes.
And 1% is from tools, but these tools greatly affect how your manpower actually works. And my aim today will also be trying to give you a real life example of a consultation that we do with our customers, and also that kind of perspective of how the customer will react. And so that either you can engage with the service with us, or at least spark some thoughts on how to have productivity gain in your projects. Okay, so for case 2, right, first I will introduce the customer, right? So for this particular customer, it's a contractor in Singapore with almost 100-year history, right? A very strong workforce in Singapore with a presence in various projects, and a key player in the building construction space with iconic projects and some joint ventures also covering civil and metro works. Okay, so when the customer first came to me and says, Andrew, I want to improve productivity, and I say, okay, let's go ahead with the consultation service that we actually do at Hilti, right? And once we go ahead, we have that first meeting where we set out certain expectations or what kind of pain points that they have in their current situation, right? And this is where the alignment happens. And for this particular customer, they said, look, I want to focus on 3 areas, right? 1, to uncover ways to improve speed of job site execution, right? So whenever I do the works on a job site, what are the different applications that I'm doing on the job site, how to make it faster. Secondly, I want you to help me to rescale my workers to optimize productivity. So teaching them the correct way to do things, making sure that there's no double job that needs to be corrected. And thirdly, also value for money findings to justify investment on Hilti tools. So, I'm very sure that all of you know, but since I've joined Hilti, the only consistent thing I hear everywhere is Hilti is very expensive. And that's also where this comes from, right? Where we would need to find out, where is this return of investment that you can find for our customers, right? So after that alignment on the pain points that they have, and then we identify, what are the productivity opportunities. This is where I sit down together with the customer, my account manager, as well as our solution consultant, to say that, look, we firstly want to ensure that tool utilization is optimized, right? You need to use the correct tool for the correct application. I can tell you that it is very common that we are using the wrong tools, and this could lead to 30% all the way up to 4 times the amount of time spent on the same application. Secondly, we want to improve execution of job site by exploring alternative application methods, which I will touch on a bit later. And then thirdly, of course, a targeted cost comparison on the total cost of tool ownership. Okay, and with that, the ultimate aim for the customer is, of course, to make the existing workforce more productive. Now, of course, with this consultation, like what Thierry and also Taufik mentioned, we spend 2 to 3 weeks on various job sites. I'm not going to go into every single detail on all the different things that we did, but I'm going to focus on specific areas and specific examples just to give you a bit of insight in the short time that I have today, right? So like what I mentioned, I'll be focusing a lot on tool utilization, cost of ownership, and also to show you some results of the productivity report. But firstly, I want to dive into tool utilization analysis. Okay, so the first area that we identified actually is based on the customer's work of safety barricade installation. Okay, so again, don't want to go too much into detail, but currently they are using drop-in anchors with threaded rods, right? And they realize also that firstly, speed of installation is one barrier, because they have safety barricades across the whole job site, and this is a huge one. So they will be making safety barricades as the works go on across the whole life of the project, right? For like 3 to 4 years. And at the same time, the quality of the installation of the safety barricades is also an issue. So whenever the safety officer goes around to inspect these barricades, he finds himself questioning on the quality of these installations, right? So with that, the first thing that we identified was how to utilize the reusable screw anchor from Hilti. We call it the Who's tree, together with a checker to check how reusable it is. And also this will help to improve the speed and the quality of the installation. So without going into too much detail, we usually also take videos for the customers to show the bosses and whoever who agreed the consultation with us how this actually looks like on the job site. But overall, on a result basis, the utilization of this accurate application increases productivity by 30%. At the same time, the reusability also helps to save some of the costs, right? So some quotes that you see there from the site manager, installation is very fast with good quality installation. And the senior PM of the job site actually says that, the speed and simple installation can help my team, right? So this is one specific example when we talk about tool utilization, using the correct tools and the correct methods to install certain applications. Okay. Now, the next portion, I also want to talk about total cost of ownership. This also has a bit of tool utilization inside. Let me dive into detail for you. Okay, so if you look over here, this customer, right, on this job site, what they are doing is that they are drilling into the ball pile, right, to install rebars. Okay, and if you are involved in RC works, you would know that for each project that requires this application, it's going to be 30,000, 40,000 holes. Easy, right? Ranging on how big the project is, right? Don't be an engineer as well. Okay, and the first thing that we noticed was when they are drilling into these holes, each hole takes about 5 minutes with what they are currently using. Okay, so drilling into the ball pile takes about 5 minutes. And at the same time, because of how often they hit the rebars, this would enhance the time in an even more exaggerated manner. So first portion of tool utilization is using the correct tool, right? With the correct size and the correct power to do the job instead, right? So if you see the tool that we actually brought down, recommended for the application, takes 66 seconds to drill the same hole of what they're currently doing, which takes 5 minutes. Okay, so if you multiply that by the 30,000, 40,000 holes we're talking about, that's a lot of manpower savings, And if you just solely look on the price of the tool, right? Like what Taufik
Yeah,
said,
yeah.
a lot of times we make
Yeah.
those decisions,
Yeah.
and you are going to be comparing that $1,000 tool versus a $4,000 tool. But how much are you saving on manpower when you talk about the correct tool for the correct application? That's something to think about.
Wow.
Okay, so I'm not going to play the full 66-second video and 5-minute video. I think there's a bit of a lag as well. So I'll just show a quick one. Okay, so we also collect workers' feedback, right? Similar to what we did for the history, and workers' feedback says that this particular tool is very powerful. We have less vibration, it's less tiring on the workers when they drill the holes, and they're also very impressed with the speed, which can help the drilling works faster. Okay, so this is another example of tool utilization, but as I said, this part I want to focus on the total cost of ownership when it comes to tools. Now, when it comes to tools, if we only look at purchase price, that's the visible cost of the item, right? Below that purchase price comes along many hidden costs, which we call hidden costs, indirect costs. This can come in terms of your job site breakdown or certain processes that Alvin also mentioned about, right? It can come with lost tools, it can come with theft, it can come with just the speed of having your purchaser needing to approve a purchase order to repair a tool, right? These are all headaches, and for 1% of the cost of your total job site, you have 5 to 6 people working on something small when they can be focusing elsewhere, right? So that's what we compare when we talk about total cost of ownership of tools. And what we say when it comes to tool park management, and like what Alvin mentioned just now on fleet management, is about outsourcing all of those troublesome menial tasks to us, right? That's what fleet management is about. Okay, so not to go too much into detail also, but I want to do a cost comparison of what it means when we talk about total cost of ownership. So drawing back into that drilling example that I used, right, you can see that the tool that they're currently using costs $1,200, right? Ours on fleet management, of course, it's monthly cost, but over 3 years, you'll be paying $4,122. Just by comparing that amount, like what Taufik said, okay, it's a no-brainer. I'm going to go with the $1,200 tool, right? Yes. However, there are also many things to consider. And this is the kind of consultation that we do on the job site. We actually interview the purchaser and the warehouse manager to talk about how long the tool can actually last, how many repair cycles it undergoes, and also what's the cost when it comes to repair. So if you look at the direct cost, right, purchasing, the Hilti tool can last 3 years. You're paying $4,001. The tool that they're currently using can last 1.5 years, which means that after 1.5 years, they need to purchase a new one to last for the 3-year project. And if you compare that alone with the repair cost, it's already 4,200 in direct cost, which is slightly above the tool that we brought. And this is not even including the indirect cost I was talking about of that 66 seconds versus 5 minutes. So this is the kind of comparison that we do to justify your return of investment when it comes to investing into your small equipment to gain productivity from manpower. Okay, so the next part, I also want to talk about a bit more of the results, right? As I said, we did a whole consultation with many different actions, but we look at the overall results. One other area that we actually identified that could potentially help the customer to do productivity gain is to consider going on board a full cordless job site, right? So of course, there's a lot of conceptions regarding cordless. Cordless in general, not just Hilti, has come a long way. From before, where everybody is convinced that the battery tool is not as powerful as the corded tool. Now I can tell you it's the same, right? And when we go through this consultation with the customer, what we did was we also started quizzing the supervisors. How much time you actually spend laying cables on a job site, right? So you can see the first portion, the amount of manpower, the man hours times the average cost of manpower, which is always increasing, by the way, right? That number is about 156,000 over 2 years, right? The cost of the tools of what they're using now on corded tools is 22.5K, right? Electrical licenses that the corded tools need and the cordless tools don't need, that costs about 24K over 2 years. And then there's the extension cables and also the distribution board box, right? The DB box. So if you compare the amount of money that you're actually spending on corded tools and the inefficiencies to do with laying of the cables, and also considering safety topic involved with corded tools, making that transition into cordless tools can actually help you to save when you compare not just the direct cost, but also the indirect cost. Okay, so just to wrap up, right, on this consultation, this is what we achieved. Firstly, 59K saved every year on direct and indirect tool park related costs, right? Secondly, more than 40% productivity gain by optimizing the application chain through new innovations. So I showed two specific examples, but there were more during the consultation. And lastly, all the workers were reskilled and trained on the job site. So when we were doing these demonstrations, we also held a session, gathering all the workers on the job site, 30 of them, 40 of them, 50 of them, and going through the different applications. Yes, and with that, I have come to the end of my sharing, and I hope it was helpful.
Yes. Thank you, Andrew. I think it's quite eye-opening, right? Sometimes people just look at the product into the visible cost and not considering the hidden cost to make some decision. And then based on the sharing that you just did, the evidence that you show 5 minutes and 66 seconds, by going down to investigate what would be the right tool, what would be the right drill bit diameter as well to improve that productivity comes into play, Imagine if you can save a typical job that you do currently, which take about 100 days, and potentially if you do it the same job and with the right tool and the right product for 70 days, you save 30 days. What can you do with the additional 30 days for your man, right?
Exactly. So I hope that sparked the thought when it comes to productivity on a job site, right? How to do it, and of course, engage with us and let us help you.
Thank you, Andrew, for your time.
Thank you so much.
Now, we have seen two cases that one by our consultant and the other one by our sales manager. Of course, for Alvin sharing is more about how he deep dive into the process mapping, looking into every detail of it. For Andrew one, he and his team went down on the job site to understand on what are they using, how are they using it, what are the challenges they face on site, and then come up with a proposal for their customer. Now, we've been sharing a lot on our end. Now I would like to invite actually one of our customer, Mr. Paul Enang, a director for Ginten Civil Engineering, who he then will be sharing with you his experience into going through the journey of productivity consultation, and as well as is there any impact on his business currently by going on board into all these productivity topics. Mr. Paul, please. Thank you so much, sir, for your time.
For having me.
Sorry. Yes.
Hi, David.
Hi. So before I think we even deep dive into certain questions that I have for you, maybe you can just share a bit about Ginten Civil Engineering.
Oh, yeah, sure. Hi everyone. My name is Paul. I'm the director for Hilti Civil Engineering. Hilti Civil Engineering is founded in 1979 by our current MD, Mr. Ang Kim Tian. We are a local setup company, and our business focus on the structure and facilities of the road network of Singapore. Yeah, so we have been serving the public for more than 35 years.
Thank you so much for that. And I think the topic today is surrounding productivity, right? So if I could ask you, in your own opinion, what are the key influence in terms of productivity in construction?
The main influence in productivity, like most of the companies will experience the same thing, which is the manpower, equipments, and also the work process.
If you were to agree, right? I mean, back then before the pandemic, manpower, yes, it is a topic, but it's not a pain. But right now, after the pandemic, everything is a challenge, even the manpower. How do we get a skilled labor nowadays is a challenge. That's what I've been hearing as well. Would you agree with that statement?
Absolutely. Yeah, manpower is the main thing actually during the pandemics, from the start of the pandemics until today. Okay, although currently the borders reopens and we can get manpowers easier. okay, than 2 years ago. Then, but we cannot rely on manpower, okay? Yeah, from now
No.
on to I mean for the future as well.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
everything changed, right? In terms of
Everything changed.
construction method change, design method change.
Everything changed. Yes, we have to improve. We have to change the work process, okay, and how to manage the the quantity of the manpowers. Okay, we cannot rely on manpower any longer. Yeah, so we have to think of ways, solutions, to improve the whole process. Okay, to increase the productivity, so that we can control the ratio of the manpowers. Yeah.
So interesting, right? Because it's been like, I think you will agree that productivity in construction has always been talk of the town, right? You know, even
Yes.
before pandemic, after pandemic, it's
Yes.
and like what Thierry shared earlier on, it's not going at the speed that we hope for, right? And then I just want to understand, how do you measure productivity back then?
Oh, in the past, is the traditional measurements. Okay. Basically, we based on the volume of work done. Okay, versus the hours of the man hours spent.
Mm.
Yeah, and then end of the day, we will look at how much we spend and what is the revenue we gotten from the work done.
Yeah, so I think you will agree that back then time and cost is a norm to get outrun,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
now it's getting a challenge a bit.
Correct,
It's a
correct,
pain.
correct, correct. So the painful part is we will only realize, okay, when we see the result.
Ah, okay.
That is the painful part.
So now you are looking at it into a perspective where if I can then see or potentially anticipate what's going to happen, I will have a better output.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So having said that, you know, you have been on board into the productivity consultation done by Hilti itself. You experience it on your own. I just want to understand, you know, what is the tipping point, like people say, right, for you to choose Hilti as a partner to go and investigate in detail on all these areas?
Yes, because of the approach that Hilti has presented to us, okay, and we like the approach. Okay, we like the hands-on approach. Okay, they really go to the basic level. Okay, down to the ground level. Okay, and do the investigations themselves. Okay, and come back with the results.
Okay.
Okay, with the data. Okay, and present it to us, and then provide us with the solutions, and guide us along the way. Yeah.
Of course, hearing that, I don't think you, like, for example, if Andrew is the sales manager presenting to you early on, or this is 66 seconds, this is 5 minutes, I strongly believe it is a 360 feedback where you will also ask your men on site, and then you will
Definitely. Yes, definitely. Yes.
because it's always the constant struggle, right?
Yes.
My man say this, and then Hilti says this, and then
Yes.
yeah. But you know, sometimes these productivity topic can be various. You might have a different perspective on it. Your team might have a different perspective on it. Hilti might have a different take on it. You know, what make you you know, like decide that, okay, no, this is the right way to go. This is the future on how we should move forward for Gimten Civil Engineering. For example, the asset management that you have with Hilti, you know, having on board like what the fleet management that was shared early on. You know, you see all this, you are on board in terms of all these benefits and stuff like that.
Yes, of course. Hilti have their own perspective, and I mean versus the perspective for my guys, for my teams. Okay, plus I'm with my team. Okay, but I am fully aware that we are not on the same track as Hilti. Okay, based on our current practice. Okay, and we want to improve what we are doing. Okay, and that is why uh, we choose Hilti. Okay, and things that we are doing is cannot keep up. Okay, the work process, everything's okay, and that's why we adopt. That's why we want to adopt Hilti's the fleet management, and also the on-track, the inventory assets management. And so that it will allow us to have a greater control of what we have, more transparency, okay, and we can rectify things earlier, the root cause, okay, at an earlier stage, so that we will not have the result that we don't want to see.
Has it, like, with all this solution on board, has it changed the way you and your team operates on a day-to-day basis?
Yes. Basically, with all these solution and service provided to us, okay, we feel more at ease and more confidence, okay, knowing that we have reliable, productive partners in Hilti that can support us when it's required.
So can I say that it allows you to focus more on the business
Yes.
rather than the integrity daily operations of, let's say,
Yes.
tool breakdown, or I need to purchase new tools?
In simple words, I will do what I'm expert in,
Yes.
okay, and I'll leave the rest to Hilti.
I do have, to just to get, your thoughts on this topic as well. How do you see productivity in construction develop in the future?
Productivity is becoming a trend, or maybe now is a trend, okay, and it will be the priority of every companies, okay, in the construction sectors. Probably not in the construction sector, it's probably to all sectors, okay, and especially for those who do not want to be left behind.
So having, the idea of being left behind is scary nowadays, because everything is moving at the speed of lightning right now,
Yes.
right? Because of the demands and you need to adapt to the situation of that. I think back then, even I cannot imagine construction industry would be a standstill. I mean, pandemic showed to us it can happen.
It can happen.
That construction industry
Yes,
can be
yes.
standstill.
Right. That is why the more, okay, we need to improve our processes, okay, rely less on manpowers, okay, using technology and the right tools for the right applications, okay, as what you did emphasize, okay, which I fully agree, okay, on this. So with this, then we can improve ourselves, okay, and beyond that, probably that there will be more advanced technology coming out
Of
in
course.
the near future.
I think that's always, I think that is the only constant thing, change, right?
Yes. There's a lot of room for the construction sectors, okay, to improve on. Yeah.
I mean, you hear it from our customer himself. I don't have any further questions. If you guys have any questions that you want to ask Mr. Poland, please go ahead and put it on the chat box. I think he'd be more than happy to address it.
Yes.
I do see a question with regards to on-track early on, where what can on-track do for you or the organization, right? I think on-track, what it does, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. So on-track actually can give a full transparency and live update on your asset, right? So imagine that it's just at a few clicks of your finger, you'll be able to know where is my tool, or where is my generator, or where is my DB box. And then you know who is holding on to it. That is vital, right? You don't need to have a lot of idle time by calling. For example, if I am the one looking for it, I don't need to call Thierry, I don't need to call Alvin, I don't need to call Andrew to check, oh, are you using it? Are you, So on-track give you full transparency of your asset. And as well as it has a functionality where it can give you certain reports on the transferring and stuff like that. So that's what on-track does. But however, feel free to reach out to our account manager wherever you are to have a deep dive understanding of on-track. They can show you the demo of the software itself, because it can be used on the desktop as well as the mobile as well. So please, I encourage you to reach out to wherever you are, our account manager who is managing your account, and then explore the on-track asset management. Look, I think I thank you so much. I know you have a busy schedule. I mean, I can't thank you so much. I think everybody on behalf of Hilti, thank you so much for taking the time to share your perspective as well, to share with the experts in the industry as well on productivity in construction, which is a huge topic. I'm looking forward to catch up with you soon as well.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Now, there you have it. If you have any questions right now, please feel free to put it on the chat. If you do have any things that you wish to clarify from individual speaker, please, I encourage you to put it on the chat. You hear it from various parties. You hear it from Thierry in the very beginning on productivity topic as a whole. Thierry shared with you a report from McKinsey on how productivity has increased over the years. You hear it from Alvin on how we look into processes and identify where can we improve the processes as well. And then you hear it from Andrew. Andrew share, he looks into a topic where how, understanding the product itself, having the right tool, the right application can help on-site execution. And then you hear it from Mr. Poland, where, he share how productivity and having on board into various solutions that we can offer has an impact on his organization. Now, there is a question on the chat. Can I track tool if my tool is on another site? Definitely you can, like I say, because it is a cloud-based app, and then you can just see it on your desktop, wherever you are. Okay? Now, I think it's just right for me to ask you, who has been spending, the last 60 minutes with us, are you engaged to understand on what might be, or are you contented to what is? So I have a poll here right now where you can actually see on the poll on, are you willing to understand more about productivity consultation? And then please do feel free to answer the question. If you have anything else, please feel free to put it on the chat. Now, having said that, like I said earlier on, the session itself is recorded. We will be sharing with you the links. If you don't have any questions, if you do, you can always reach out to us, the account manager. Without any further ado, I thank you so much for your time. Thank you, Mr. Poland, once again for coming over and having the sharing with us, discussion with us. Thank you, and stay safe.